Hi everyone, thanks for looking at our Pyranha ReactR video. This is the latest Pyranha Whitewater river running creek boat. Extremely excited to tell you about it. There is a little bit of time pressure with the video because a customer, a good friend called Tony, is coming to pick up the boat for test in about half an hour. So we'll get through this. Now, as the boat's brand new and we haven't actually been in it as yet, this is just initial thoughts and to tell you about the boat. We'll definitely be following this up with an on the water video, once we've got some miles under the hull. We're also doing a separate little video on the elite outfitting. That's a full ground up redevelopment and there's just too much to go through to combine it with a boat video. So check out the blog and our other posts if you want to know specifically about the outfitting. Now, it's about 6 years ago that one of our team paddlers said to me after paddling some tricky white water, I wish, George, that there was a river running creeker that just had a bit less volume in the stern. Not a half slice by any means, but just a river runner with a bit less volume in the back. I don't want to do tailies, I just want more rapid line changes, maneuverability and a bit more sort of dynamism from the boat. And this is really exactly what the ReactR is all about. So whether Pyranha had us bugged, I'm not too sure. It sits just under the race length limit, so you can still use it in any kind of extreme racing that you might be interested in. That's the same with the large. This is actually the medium-sized boat and it's catering for paddlers from 70 to 95 kilos. So perhaps more sort of medium plus than a true medium. Certainly be quite different in size from something like a Mark II Burn, so medium boats definitely have shifted in sizing. But you need to test the boat, how you feel in it far overrides what I think or what our opinions of the weight range are. So get out there and test one and see how it works for you because your build, your intended use will be different from mine. There's three things we really need to talk about with the ReactR. Firstly is the tail and the volume. Secondly is the overall width of the boat. And third is the pivot hull. We'll start with the pivot hull. So most kayaks traditionally have been either a continuous rocker curve, so it's a smooth curve from tip to tail, or they've been a kick rocker, which is a flat section under the hull and then two aggressive kicks up to the bow stern. Pyranha have moved away from these two styles, so the ReactR actually uses a pivot hull. You could almost see it as a shallow V with two planing surfaces moving away from the hip line. It's really important that the pivot point is under your bum, simply because it's that trimming of your weight that's going to allow you to use one planing surface or another. So for instance, if you were landing off a drop, it'd be good to be landing on that front flat surface to really drive away. Similarly, if you're coming up to a really mean looking ledge hole, it might be nice to trim back a bit, adjust the rocker of the boat, and lift the nose and hopefully give yourself an easier passage over that difficult feature. It also means that the boat skips like nothing else. That's a feeling we all love from early whacker boats, and that was really a feature of the kick rocker. It's something that's been integrated into most modern creek boats since, so this won't be news, but it's just taken to another level with the ReactR. One thing David at Pyranha was keen for us to tell you in relation to the stern is that we shouldn't call this a half slice. It is not a half slice, and you shouldn't think of it as should I buy a ripper or a ReactR. They're in such different categories, nor is it a 3/4 slice or a fat half slice. It is a river running creek boat with a dynamic tail. So slightly lower volume, much shallower and softer sidewalls, which allows water to come across the deck for quick manoeuvring, but not sufficiently so that it could load the deck and feel trippy or unstable. This kind of roundness of the sidewall is quite different from a traditional creeker, and I don't know if you think of early liquid logic boats were very slab-sided, same as a Riot, very vertical sidewall, and of course any lateral wave can really hit that and cause a movement to your line. So I like the idea of this lower volume stern, not so low as for tailies but for manoeuvrability, combined with this softened sidewall. Now in terms of width, the Firecracker was the widest boat Pyranha had ever produced, 67 centimetres if memory serves me right. This has now taken that record, so a ReactR is 70 centimetres wide. It's an interesting thing because you would traditionally have thought that would create an extremely stable platform, which it will. There will, of course, be some questions about edge-to-edge transition, but when we look at some detailed shots of the hull, you'll notice that there's actually a narrow raised section in the middle of the hull, which is what you're primarily going to be using, and it's going to give quick edge-to-edge transition. And then the full width of the hull is only going to be used really when you're edging and looking to engage the rail, carving around the river, zipping into eddies, this kind of thing. The width is, I think, what gives the boat such a universal appeal. I'm not always a fan of products where the marketing says it's great for someone who's never done the sport, but it's also amazing for a world-class paddler. I'm not sure that's possible. With the ReactR, the width, of course, is going to bring that stable platform for a beginner, but similarly, someone who's absolutely pushing the grades, when combined with the highly maneuverable tail, I can see how that can work for everyone. Now, interestingly, if you're kind of offline, whether you're paddling class 2 or class 5, I imagine the idea of this slip tail and quick maneuverability might be a positive thing. So who's the ReactR for? Well, as we've said, could suit anyone of mixed ability. I think it's really going to be coming into its own at class 3+ and above, and it might quiver really nicely with something like a firecracker or an ozone. You know, something there, especially the firecracker, you would have that consistent feel of width. But hopefully it allows people to paddle more difficult water, but in a dynamic fashion. So not a numb creaker that's kind of giving you a false sense of progression, but a dynamic boat that's really going to help your paddling and just bring kind of, I suppose, more smiles per mile would be the classic thing you'd read online. We do have demos of the medium. We will have demos of all sizes once they're available. And it's always best to give us a call and chat through whether this is the right boat for you. Thank you.